You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the prowl, and it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
Hello everyone. I'm sure y'all are all exploring and enjoying the latest Project Zomboid build. With new updates comes a lot of relearning for some mechanics, and to take in all the new additions and tweaks to the old mechanics. So let's dive in, break down this new update, and see how that's going to affect our experience. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to the lovely Katophoenix for a fantastic thumbnail. Be sure to check her work out below. One other thing I'd like to note is that yes, many mods are going to be broken due to this update. If you wish to use mods reliably, then go to properties and select the 41.50 beta, or wait for your favorite mods to be updated. Now let's begin with the all new additions to the game, shall we? This video will be the first of a two-parter. We'll be covering what's new, what's been changed, as well as balances. Let's get the boring shit out of the way first. Now the game is running on Java 15 and the latest lightweight Java game library. This is mostly technical shit and should hopefully lead to smoother experiences, but I'm not a coder, as I've established in the mod videos. One other out of the game related thing is the game now requires Windows 10 version 1803, also known as build 17134, or greater to enable the newer garbage collector added in. If you have an earlier version, then the game will run without it and you won't receive that particular optimization. And the final non-gameplay difference is there's now a warning that states, please check Project Zomboid Steam betas for version 41.50 if you attempt to boot a save on the older version of the game. The game's also had the Korean fonts and translations updated, alongside the community translations. Keeping with this theme, there's also now Brazilian Portuguese radio translations as well. Well, now that we've got that out of the way, let's try to group and look at the various changes. There have been multiple changes to farming. Previously, if you wanted to do anything related to farming, you had to individually right-click every single tile. But now, once you pick the option you want, you'll be able to use your cursor and just click on each tile to continue that action. Another farming-related change is the fact that items you need to cure your infected plants and crops is now shown on the plant instead of you having to guess. You still need to have the knowledge required to do so, however, to make the cure, so find that magazine. Next up comes a variety of changes to the watch systems in-game. First is the fact that analog watches are no longer capable of having alarms, so you better find a digital watch if you want to wake up at a certain time, or an alarm clock. Another quality of life change is the digital watch now has an alarm button on the UI that shows when it's on. The alarm clock also shows the same bell icon on the UI when set. There has also been a few inventory and UI related changes made to the game. Now there's a filter icon in the inventory panel for additional sorting options. Currently it only has one option, that being weight. You can now also shift double-click clothing in your inventory to equip the items instead of having to manually right-click and select from the drop-down menu. Whenever you level up, your newest earned skill level will be highlighted when you open the skill panel, so that definitely helps when you're earning skills that can be earned with others, like combat-related skills. Your water source will now be displayed in parentheses for the drink and wash option. This was done to hopefully figure out the issue to where you'll try to refill or wash something from the sink, only to keep grabbing that puddle just outside the wall instead. A cursor has also been added to allow you to easily remove bushes, plants, and wall vines to make it quicker and easier. Another cursor is also added which lets you choose which walls or objects you want to paint and plaster, without having to right-click every single one of them. When you reload bullets, it will show a tooltip for which magazine it is. If you attempt to repair a vehicle door, now a tooltip appears, telling you that you must take the door off before you can fix it. Then you can do the repair action from your inventory. There's been a variety of related changes, as well as the environmental storytelling is now able to spawn decomposed zombie corpses instead of only fresh ones, as well as new smashed car models and more variety to the crashed cars. In addition, the covered trailer, which has been added to vehicle distributions to find and loot, and trailer bodywork can now be repaired using welding, which adds more metalworking uses to the game. The final vehicle change is the fact that if you press Shift plus E, then your character will automatically move to the driver's seat if it's currently unoccupied. Tailoring and clothing in general has also received several new changes and features. New options to add padding or patching holes. This basically, as long as you have the resources, will patch the holes and then add padding to other parts if possible. The ability to remove all the padding and patches at once has also been added. And something that tailoring has crucially needed is the fact you now get XP gain when you rip clothing and sheets. You gain small amounts of XP when you receive thread back, which was done as a balancing measure. There's been some changes to the zombies, one of which is my absolute favorite addition, where a zombie just flops through a broken window into a pile of glass. It'll cut the zombie's face and upper body up, bloodying these regions. Zombies are now also capable of pathfinding through destructible objects. They'll always attempt to go around, but if their route is completely blocked off, then they will go through that wall or the furniture blocking their path. Some cosmetic changes have also been added, including the addition of hair gel. Using hair gel, you can put your hair up, and if you have a mohawk, putting a hat on will flatten it, requiring you to use hair gel to put it back up. Hats and gloves will now despawn or decay out of the world if left on the ground. The default timer for this is set around 24 in-game hours. Speaking of, there have been several new world customization changes added to the sandbox, including a decay of items when you knock them off of zombie, as well as a new saliva-only infection transmission, which means no more infection from scratches and lacerations with this option, only bites. The next change is a combo box which has been added to the items list viewer, which lets you choose which split screen player you want to give items to. Not really sure about that one, as I've never used the split screen option. And the final change is northwest corner wall frames have been replaced with two separate wall frame objects when they're initially loaded, as players can't upgrade northwest corner objects. This covers all the new additions outside of model and animation specific additions and changes. The character customization has been further expanded upon within the game, including some long hairstyles when you wear a hat. Some clothes and female specific hats have been adjusted to accommodate these new hat looks. Said female long hat hair was also tweaked to stop the pixels from spazzing the hell out. There's also been a variety of brand new hairstyles in general added, including braided hairstyles. Some hairstyles were also fixed to the point of the correct setting now, because they had become invisible when they were worn with certain hats. When you fall down, the gentle landing animation has been replaced with a heavier fall animation. The 180-degree turn animation was tweaked a bit, and the zombies laying on back pose was adjusted to match how the zombie died. Now let's dive into the wall of nerfs, buffs, and all-around patches done to the game. Now we begin the long, tedious wall of balance changes. I will do my best to group similar content together and streamline the process. Let's start with the pointy knife changes. Butter knives can now spawn impaled into zombies, and the number of hunting knives that spawn in zombies have been reduced down. Knife damage has also been reduced slightly, most noticeable in the stone knife. Zombies in general now also have a lower spawn rate of the zombie survival in the Horde event, which also has had the change of the almighty Alice pack spawning on the survivor zombies less, to make it harder to pile up the best bags. Zombies now do more damage as defenses when they crowd around them or against them, but they require at least 2 zombies on the fence to do this. Otherwise, just one zombie flopping over the fence over and over will not do anything. Metal fences also now take half the damage a wooden fence takes from this action. Zombies that spawn due to a vehicle story, such as a police blockade, now have a high chance to spawn the key for the vehicles found there. Zombies are also more likely to spawn feeding on a corpse, while these feeding zombies themselves are less likely to see you as they are preoccupied nomming Jerry from next door. Tents are now breakable by zombies in their mad thumping rampage, so don't expect putting up a wall of tents to save you. The last zombie related change is the fact they're more likely to become a crawler when you hit them with a car, and this makes a good segue into vehicle specific changes. The biggest change done to this patch is the fuel stations. Fuel is no longer unlimited, so don't expect to draw fuel forever. And to go alongside this, a new sandbox option has been added called Initial Fuel Station Gas, ranging from empty up to very high. Gas cans when empty now also weigh 1.5 weight instead of the 0.3 they were. Vehicles now are slow to wash all the blood and dirt off of, and when you crash your car into objects, the engine can now be damaged if the hood condition shot to hell. Cars now also drive slower and hit weaker when you're driving in reverse due to the reduced engine forces. Next, there's also been a large amount of food and drink related changes. Now if you drink a beer, you get the empty can back. Beef jerky got a buff to its nutritional values, making it better. Dead animals except rats and mice now have a tooltip that explains that cooking the animal will remove the unhappiness debuff. Salt and pepper can now be added to the sandwiches, which is a tasty addition. Berry salads now reduce thirst, which makes sense as berries by themselves reduce thirst. Cans of tuna now no longer need a can opener to open and consume, being a pull tab. The bleach bottle also no longer carries as much water within. The white display counter found at butcher shops now function as a fridge, which makes that food last longer. It's a nice option to steal for your own base. When you add new items to partially consumed meals, the new values of the old food are added to the new item instead of the partially consumed item. The final food related change is the fact that cockroaches and grasshoppers can now be used to bait stick traps while trapping. There's also been a variety of clothing and inventory related changes as well. Tailoring books are now more easily able to be found within kitchens, which is a nice change, as those books are bloody hard to find at times. Coupled with the fact you now get XP from ripping clothes, this is a pretty sweet addition. For some godforsaken reason, the fanny pack was further nerfed with an even smaller inventory, so now you're even less likely to touch it. Speaking of bags, any bags held in your hand or equipped slow your run and walk speed, with the more stuffed in it, the higher speed losses. Bags in your secondary slot now reduce your combat speed, so you'll swing slower as well. Firefighter clothes have been made even heavier with increased run and combat speed nerfs accordingly. One positive is in the clothing tooltip. It now shows how bullet resistant the piece of cloth is, which will be useful for PvP when multiplayer returns. All bandanas now also only have a weight of 0.1. Ammo and ammo box weights would change to be more logical, with a full box of ammo having slightly less weight than the equivalent amount of bullets in a loose stack. This also makes sense as a box of ammo is less clunky than dealing with a bunch of rolling bullets. The weight of ammo boxes was also reduced in general. Speaking of guns, the M36 revolver can now only hold 5 rounds in the cylinder, and pistols in general now have an increased amount of recoil. Rifles, however, can now spawn in sheds and garages, making them easier to find. There's also been a few building and wall specific changes added as well. Player built walls now have more HP than before, and wooden wall frames that are placed in a map by map makers can now be upgraded by players. The final change in this regard is the fact the character can now also auto open boxes of nails when you need more nails for a build. It's also possible to recover and repair a weapon that was used to create a spear. Now let's talk about the various character related buffs and nerfs done to the game. Now splints will increase your walk speed with a fracture, and how fast you're affected is determined by the doctor's first aid skill. Injuries also now have a more prominent effect on sprint speed, and leg fractures specifically reduce speed based on their severity. On a positive, you now also take less damage to your feet when you walk barefoot, and less damage from trees when you walk through them. Light-footed and sneaking has also taken a nerf to grinding. Now you have to be within 15 tiles of a zombie to gain the XP, so it's harder to mass gain XP like with the siren trick. And the final balance change comes in the form of character creation. The athletic perk can no longer be selected if you have the very underweight trait. Park Ranger and Lumberjack also now give a bonus for walking through trees. Overall, this is an intense change to the game once again. A lot of old things are gonna have to be unlearned and learned new. The game is definitely balancing towards making the game harder, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I for sure agree with the fuel station changes. There are also some changes that seem kinda pointless and dumb. Like, did the fanny pack really need another nerf? Almost no one uses it already due to its abysmal capacity and weak weight reduction. So why make its inventory even smaller? Same with the firefighter outfits. While a somewhat protected protected piece of clothing, a lot of people just don't use it, especially in the summer due to its already excessive weight, which will give your character a stroke if you're not careful. I do definitely dig all the additions done to the character creator though. It's nice to be able to add more unique looks to the characters as well as zombies, and a lot of the car changes are pretty solid choices, including the fact that the zombies are more likely to have the keys for the nearby car events. I'm also pleased with the fact that tailoring got some nice additions, including the easier ability to gain XP, as well as finding the rare-ass tailoring books. I'm also a fan of the fact zombies will just destroy everything in their way to get to you if you rile them up. Makes it harder to get complacent with them, especially if you choose the base in town. I'll be breaking this video into two parts. This one has the additions, the nerfs, and the buffs, while part 2 will focus on the rest of the changes, the bug patches, and the not fully added changes, such as the partial loot table changes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This has been Core. Be sure to support the artist, and I'll see you next time.